That one. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. We want to thank everybody for coming for their attendance, and we're going to call the meeting to order at 5:34 for the Finance Committee September meeting. So if I can, I will go ahead and I will call the roll. Trustee Steve?
Present. Trustee
Brown?
Present.
And Trustee House is present. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And as we remain standing for a prayer, a brief prayer. Heavenly Father, we come to you today just to say thank you once again for waking us up, getting us here in good health. We ask that you cover our village, the finances, and all the minds, hearts, and spirits in this room. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so what I want to do on here is we're going to go from, I want to flip-flop new business and old business. I want to start with the new business because there's a couple of things that we have our Public Works supervisor here to present to us, and I want to make sure that he gets his presentation, and we talk about the audit status, and then we'll close out with the regular reports. So with that, I'm going to ask Superintendent Stacy come up and talk about the proposal for the finance agreement of the salt trucks and the reason and rationale for the need of the salt trucks.
Good evening, everyone. I gave the trustees copies of the proposals that I went out to get for possibly 2 new plow trucks. We do have 2 trucks right now. They're 1999 International dumps. There's a Rush Truck Center sheet in your packet. Both trucks are down. They have transmission issues. The repairs per truck is $6,500 to $7,000, depending on, I'd like to go a little high in case they find something as they're making repairs. So from $6,500 to $7,000 per truck. That's to repair a 1999 International Frontline plow truck. The one truck is starting to rot out in the bed very badly. Last winter we had to put some quick fix, throw some plywood down because of the rust holes in it. Every time we tried to repair it, the steel was melting because there was nothing left to it. So I gave you guys a copy of the repair. I went out and I looked into possibly some used refurbished International dump trucks. Those are 2011s. We purchased from this dealership before. The price on those is $64,500. They do have a finance company that would work with us to do a lease purchase plan with them. So they, at the time I spoke to them 2 weeks ago, they had 3 of them on the lot. I would have to call to verify to make sure they still have some or still have them on their lot. Thirdly, I gave you guys a price from the Mack dealer that we deal with. That one is from M&K Truck Center. It's for a 2021 Mack snowplow truck. That's just for one now. It's going to be a stainless steel dump body, 11-foot blade, or I'm sorry, a 10-foot blade on it, stainless steel salt spreader. That one goes for $191,000 brand new. It's in 2021. But the problem with that one is they're about 6 to 7 months out. So we wouldn't see that one until after the start of the year. So thirdly, I went online, started looking some more, and I found a Freightliner dealer in Ohio. I spoke to the guy this morning. They have 3 ready to go plow trucks on their lot. They're 2020 Freightliners. The cost for those are $146,650 each, with a plow being put on there, it's an additional 10,000. So 156,000 for one 2020 Freightliner. And again, I spoke to the gentleman today. They do offer a company for financing and all that with the lease purchase plan. He did send me over a copy of the application. I didn't print that out. I can print that out if we would like to check with them.
Would that application be more favorable or less favorable than the one that's in this proposal financially?
To deal with them?
Yes.
He said they work with a lot of municipalities, you know, between out there in Ohio, and they've dealt with people out this way, you know, Illinois, because they do deal with their vendor that takes care of all the snow plow upgrades and all that. They do have a shop out in Joliet, or right near Joliet. I couldn't remember what town it was. But they do deal with people out here. So comparing, we got the 2011s that they have on the lot. If we could get the financing of that through the company that they offer, I would say you're better off going with the new ones, warranties. We do have a Freightliner dealer that we deal with now because our sewer vector is a Freightliner. So it's not like we wouldn't have nowhere to take it to if it needed recalls, repairs, or whatnot. So I can look into more. I can get with you with the application or whoever. You know I dealt with Janice with doing the financing with our street sweeper. I dealt with her and Yvonne, so I can assume deal with Janice and Chris with financing or whatnot, or calling and asking questions, because financing is not my end of the table. So I can help, but so basically what I'm looking for is to see if we get this put on to the upcoming meeting so that I can get more into figuring out what we have to do.
Okay. I'm going to see if there's questions from the board before I fire away.
Only one thing, with the 2011, what type of warranty?
He's got a limited 2-year warranty. So he does cover some of the chassis and all that. Now, the dump body, the spreader, and the plow are brand new through a company that does, this company is out of Indiana. The company he uses for the dump body, spreader, and plow and all that, they do the Indiana IDOT trucks. So they're a good company.
And this 2011 have 160,000 miles on it?
Yeah, that's 160,000.
Is that considered high for that type of truck? Is that considered high mileage for that?
For a diesel, if you don't mind, Mr. Gezi, you dealt with diesels too. I don't think it's that bad.
Locally, it's bad.
Locally, yeah. If it's highway,
It's not. But if you have
Right.
a local unit, that's a lot of miles for
Yeah.
a unit. That's like your SWAT cars.
Yeah.
yeah, so.
SWAT cars, those are, that's hard miles.
So were they local or they?
I can check with him to find out for sure. I believe some of them are, you know, highway miles, because he gets the trucks from down south,
Yeah.
brings them up. So I don't know, he could say they're highway miles, but it could be local miles down where he gets them from.
Okay, so your recommendation then sounds like it would be the financing for the newer vehicles, would that be?
Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Just like I said, dealing with heavy trucks and all that, I would rather go new. This way we get bumper-to-bumper warranties. Anything comes up, it goes right to the dealer under warranty.
Okay, so my thing would be because I know you got the financing proposal, I would say we want
Yes.
to make sure we get that in email and have it be something that I think as the community can also,
Right.
that's why we wanted to make sure we had it here, so it's we have a forum for everybody to
Okay.
give feedback. Also, I can say, because from a cash flow standpoint, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the constraints that the village does have. However, we do have an account that has a little bit in excess of 500,000 that can only be used towards capital improvements. So there is some money that's earmarked only for that and cannot be used for general fund purposes. So with financing, it seems like there's funding available, but we want to make sure that we're cautious and responsible with how we do it.
Right, and that's why I had talked to Chris about it, and the guy, like I said, I'll get the stuff printed out. I can email it to you, 3 trustees, so you can look at it. Basically, it's just the application. So, because right now for the 2 trucks, it's going to be $313,800. So,
Would it have figures in terms of what it costs annually, semi-annually, how many years?
if you want, I can check with their finance company if they can give us like a ballpark like this other company did, and we can go from there.
Okay.
I can, if I can too, I'm going to call this other company back and see if they'll do for us with a different company.
Okay, yeah, I know we want to move quickly because the
Right.
snow season's coming, but at the same time, we want to make sure we have enough information that
Right. 'Cause
everybody's included.
This other company that did the financing for the other trucks, he gave us 2 different proposals in 3-year, 4-year, or 5 years.
Okay.
So I can call him back and ask him about it and see what he says.
Okay, sounds good. So if you can get that to everybody, that will be great, and we'll
Okay.
continue working on it.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks for your time. Okay, next thing on the agenda is just an updated status for our fiscal year 2019 audit. We put that on here just because we want to make sure that we keep this on the top of our mind as well. Our fiscal year ended on April 30th. Generally, it takes anywhere from 5 to 6 months after the closeout of the year that we actually receive the audit. 2 months time just for internal reconciliation of the financials, and about 3 to 4 months with the auditors to gather, request, and review all of the information. Currently, the last conversation I had with with our accounting firm, who's also serving in the role of our finance team, we are set for a draft of our audit mid-October, which would be around October 15th, and they should have the audit presentation for us in December, around early December. So we are on track for that. So just one thing we wanted to make an announcement. Any thoughts or questions from the board on that?
No.
Okay. With that being said, we're going to go to the financials of the village. Actually, I see Mr. Jones here, so I'm going to pass out a couple of packets, and then we'll go over the monthly financial reports. I think there's a gentleman in the back as well. Okay, so the monthly financial report, this is the document that we've been going through for the past few months, so hopefully we'll get more and more comfortable with the document, and moves the process along, or helps with the question and the Q&A process. We want to go over to the general fund so we can see where we're at in terms of revenues over expenses and compare it as well to our budget. So what I'm going to look at is the general fund on page 10. Is that 10? Okay. So on the general fund, these are our financials through the month of August. We're still in September, so we would not have those figures until next month, of course. Looking at our excess revenues over expenditures, right now we have a surplus of $308,000. If we include the financing sources, which is the bond that we use for Homewood disposal, would show that we have an excess of $590,000 fiscal year to date. That is May through August. As we mentioned at the last meeting, a bulk of our property tax installments have already come in and been collected. So while we're showing a surplus, that still is something that we have to monitor tightly. I'm going to close the meeting. So after getting to agenda item D, I am going to close with talking about cash flow as well, because this is going to tie into a cash flow challenge or concern that we have, and I want to make sure that we're closing with that so that the board has questions, and I want it to be as close to citizens address that. I think we can have more of a fluid conversation as well as a board and as a community. But At current general fund, from regular operating activities, $308,000 through August of surplus, and we're including the bond funding, $590,000 through August. Any questions from the board on that? Okay. Please, and I ask for during citizen address, if there's any questions, jot them down right now, and then as it comes to the citizen address, we'll answer all questions. Two other quick points to note. I received the email, and if anybody needs the email that I received from our finance company, I'm more than happy to share it. So please just feel free to call me 708-625-1105, text, or you can email me jhouse@vodolton.org, and I'm more than happy to share my communication of our verification. The status for our bond payment, which is due in December, we are on track, and there's enough money put into our bond accounts to make that payment. So at this time, there's no reason to feel that we would miss that payment. Similarly, with our payment to the City of Chicago, which will be coming due before the end of October, we also have enough money put to the side from this last installment of property taxes to cover the lump sum payment to the City of Chicago we make. We do make monthly payments for the current water bill that we're using, and then we have a lump sum that we have to pay once per year, which covers the settlement agreement. If we make that payment for 8 years straight, then the late fees and penalties will be waived. So the payment that I'm speaking of is the one-time lump sum. So there will be, on our warrant list coming up within the next 2 months, we will see a large payment to the City of Chicago that will represent our repayment of the settlement amount.
And also, are we almost done paying, what is it, 2004 bond?
This year with the bond payment, two of our bonds will be paid in full, and it would leave us with 3 bonds remaining. So as we go into the next fiscal year of budgeting, then we will not have the obligation of those 2004 series bonds.
So you said 2 bonds will be paid off.
Correct.
And do you know the amount that we will?
I do not have the amount that was paid off. I can research and get that pretty quickly, though.
Thank you.
Okay, and then in terms of I'm going to do D, and I'm going to attribute almost an E to that. D is our uncollected balance from water bills, and E is going to be cash flow, because these things are going to tie in together, which will be how we're going to close out prior to citizens' address. At the very back of the packet, page 34, that we've given, this is the report that we were having some challenges with getting our water department, or Locust, our water system. I don't want to blame the department. We're having issues with the system accurately giving us information on what the balance of outstanding water bills is. So this was updated and sent to us about 2 weeks ago. It was updated 2 weeks ago. The most current report that we have is through September 18th of outstanding water bills. In total, if you go to the bottom right column, we have $4,119,371 of uncollected water revenue. That's money that we've billed and has not been paid. Because we pay it quarterly, the 1 to 30 and 31 to 60 days outstanding is pretty standard or common. Those are not going to be the fastest paid. The area of the 61 to 90, and of course 91 through anything over 60 days is where we want to be more aggressive. And of course 90 to 120 is where we really pick up in over 120 days. With that being said, the significance of this, of course, is we have to make sure we have our payments to the City of Chicago. Separate from that, as we mentioned in our financials, the tax money that has already come in, and we have enough revenue in our general fund to cover general operating expenses. With the water fund, if we are not collecting on the water, then that means we are running close to a point where we could either miss payroll. When I say close, we can be within 2 payrolls of either a missed payroll from uncollected water amounts, or looking at alternative funding sources. And when I say alternative funding, that could be a bond issuance, that could be an emergency meeting where we have to look at restricted funds being allocated to be used until the next property tax installment comes in. All scenarios that we do not want to go into. I'm bringing this up, and I'll try to talk through this a little bit slower, so that way I'll make sure I'm making sure that I'm speaking it properly, that the board understands it, and if there's questions from the residents as well, that those questions can be discussed. So the major thing is we are billing right now enough money to cover our expenses. We are not collecting at this time the level of money that we need. I've spoke with our administrator. She has been fired up about this and on top of it, I would say for the last 2 to 3 months, if not longer. However, it's a team effort, so it's one of those. It is an area that we have to make sure, from administrator to water department to assistance with public works, we're all working together for the resident side to make sure that there will be an increase in the number of water shutoffs. So for those that have maybe gotten comfortable, if that truck comes out, I don't know if it's a truck, 2 cars, 2 guys, people you don't want to see, that there will be an increase as well. So I would kind of say this more as a public service announcement. If you've been skating by, please don't skate too long, because I would hate for that to catch up, but we have to do what we have to do. With that being said, I'll ask first from the board if there's any questions on this portion of the cash flow or the water report.
Was the districts 3, 4, 6, and 8 residential?
Districts 1, 2, and 3 are residential.
Okay.
District 4 is industrial, and 6 through 8 are businesses, and those line up with districts 1, 2, and 3 from the residential side.
So commercial and then business.
Village Administrator Elizabeth, you want to say anything about this? No? No. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna have our administrator kind of, I think this has better.
So we are cutting off water. We've been cutting off approximately $100,000 a day in water, which is a drastic increase from the numbers that we were doing before. There's no reason that we should not be fluid. A big part of that is that we have over $4 million in uncollected water revenue. In the past, some days we weren't shutting off water at all, sometimes for weeks at a time. There's no reason why we should not be more cash fluid. So we will be cutting off water every day, with the exception of Friday. Like I explained to the trustees up here, if there's an issue with cutting off water on Friday, because I know before there have been discussions about that, if it's unpopular, that's okay. We are going to aggressively cut off water Monday through Thursday. Therefore, we do not need to shut off water on Friday. I've discussed this with them. It's feasible. Instead of cutting off $20,000 of water in a week, we will be shutting off at least $100,000 worth of water a day. So we do expect to see an increase in water and revenue coming up. And also with SafeSpeed. Did you touch on SafeSpeed? So we owed approximately $311,000 to SafeSpeed. We have satisfied, I think, almost $100,000. We owe them $224,000 and change from the issues that we have with SafeSpeed. We have caught up now. We were only able to go back and capture 90 days by law worth of tickets. We satisfied all of those tickets, so we are going to see an influx in cash flow with that as well. When we budgeted for this fiscal year, we lowballed the SafeSpeed money coming in because we knew that we had to satisfy the $311,000 that we owed them. We are currently paying them off at a much faster rate than anticipated. We didn't expect to collect any money until next year. But I spoke with SafeSpeed yesterday, and we're anticipating that we will be starting to collect money and satisfied our bill with them as of probably November. So we're on track.
Okay, I thank you for the input. If there are no further questions from the board, I am going to go straight to citizens' address and ask that anybody that has questions on any agenda item or on here, please feel free to come up and ask. Good evening, Ms. Wells.
Good evening. I just have 2 questions. What is Safe Speed?
Safe Speed is the company that administers the red light tickets.
Okay. And then the other question, I did hear that one of the strategies in place now is shutting off water. Is there any other strategies in place to do the collections?
And I think that's partly where the administrator mentioned in terms of the Safe Speed, because as that comes in, that's revenue of about $70,000 per month that would be coming to the village of Dolton. Once we satisfy that, we will have additional revenue coming from there. I think the major thing and the reason that we're focusing much more on the collections is we are billing enough money to satisfy our bills. So it's not that we haven't projected or billed enough to do it. We're just not doing the work to go and collect the money that we already bill.
Okay, so I got the part where the collection is part of the strategy. I got that, but is there
Yes.
any other strategy to reach residents, or is it just shutting off the water?
It's the Safe Speed, shutting off water, and then a review of our expenses to lower expenses as well.
Any outreach to the residents just to let them know that, you know, you're going to get this water aside from the notices that goes out? I think what I'm thinking or suggesting is, I know that when the mayor first came in on board, or maybe a year or two after, he did a, what is it called? A forgiveness of a fee for the stickers, because, you know, people were not buying the stickers in amnesty or something like that. And I'm not suggesting we do an amnesty on the water bill because we need that money, but there was a turnout of folks coming in to get their stickers after he announced that, which was something good. So I'm thinking, is there something else we can do to not necessarily incentivize folks to come and pay what they owe, but let them know if you don't get it in by this date, or can they do payments? Is there any other measure? It doesn't sound like it.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay.
I will say I'm open to any other thoughts or any other ways to do it. Maybe if there's any thoughts that the board has heard of.
He looks perplexed.
I think that, from my understanding, they're going from 700 to almost 1,000 up. So if somebody's $1,000 behind, they've almost paid a water bill in almost a year.
Okay.
So, I mean, how much more? The best incentive is to cut off, and that's when they come in and pay. I mean, there'd be extra fee on us to send something else out to them, the reminder on top of the payment to send out the water bill. So.
Okay, I just wanted to ask that question. And then lastly, I said two questions, but I have another one. These numbers are reflective of actual residents or people living in the homes. These aren't abandoned homes, or is this true residency where you can actually get the monies?
It would be approximately about 85% would be true residents.
Okay.
We are still in the process of scrubbing through to get it more accurate. I think over time it ballooned out of control, and while multitasking some of the things that the administration is doing, they are looking at it, and month by month we are looking at ways to get it more consistent.
I'm sorry, one more question. Last finance meeting, you talked about perhaps we realized that our system is antiquated and we may need something new. Has there been any more conversations on upgrading our system that we have now?
Nothing firm. Conversations, yes. A real plan or a real strategy, not at this time, no.
Okay. I'm sorry. One more question.
Also, I want to mention that if somebody, they still work out water payments. They still work with people. I've seen that happen.
Before shut off?
Before, I mean,
So
a lot
if
of
I
times-
owe $1,000, I can come and say, hey, I don't have $1,000, and you'll work with,
Yes.
the water department will work with the person?
Yes, that happens on a regular.
Maybe-
Unfortunately, from my understanding, it sometimes don't happen until after they get the water covered. But if they come in and say, I want to give a payment plan, they work with them.
What
And
about a
that's-
PSA on Channel 4 to say, if you know that you're late, come talk to someone in the water?
I can put that-
think
we can
that
put that up.
people just, I don't know if they just don't want to pay their water bills or what, but if we do every effort to collect, perhaps that could get folks in. And Matt's gone. Oh, I have one more question about the newer trucks, and I don't know if you guys can answer it, but with the newer one, the 2021, that has the manufacturer's warranty, how long is that warranty? Is that 100,000 miles, or you wouldn't know? Or that's...
I do not know that answer.
Okay.
No.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Good evening, Trustee Henry.
Just two questions. Who's over the water department now?
Is that Sonia London?
Okay, and are we up to date now as far as getting people their water bills on time? Because a lot of bills been going out late. Do y'all have an answer for that?
I believe that they are. We had an issue with the printing company, and that's why the bills were going out late. However, Sonia was removing the late fee, so people were not getting a late fee added
Okay.
on to accommodate the, the extra day so that they would get extra time. They were not given a late fee. The other thing I wanted to add was, I know people have come to the board meetings in the past and they complained, well, my neighbor has a $3,000 bill and I have a $600 bill. Why is my water cut off and their water's cut on? We are not cutting off water based on the dollar amount. We're cutting off water now based on the amount of time that has transpired. So we're not looking if you have a $6,000 water bill or a $400 water bill. If you have not paid your water bill in excess of 6 months, your water may possibly get cut off. But there's a large list. $4 million is a lot of money. So it's not like anyone who is past delinquent of 6 months, the next day your water is going to get cut off. There's a long list. So we have to get through that list. $4 million is a lot of money. So like I said, it's 6 months or more. Some of these people haven't paid in 2 and 3 years. You know you have a water bill. And with that being said, with the complaints of saying that we're not getting a shut-off, if ComEd, you don't pay your bill in 2 years, what do you think is going to happen? So that's about all I have to say.
Who do we use for the, send it out, the billing? You said
I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but it is a printing company in South Holland.
Is it Arlo?
Yes.
So Arlo does the printing. So
Yes.
So what was the issue with the printing? He just didn't send them? What?
So from my understanding is there was no, they ran out of postage at the post office, and Arlo did not notify anyone.
And that's why the residents got the bills late?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So I'm in the process now of finding another printing company.
Okay, my other question is, so when a person has an issue with their water bill and you guys go to cut it off, what's protocol for helping that individual?
The person can come into the water department and see someone over there, and they make a payment arrangement. And it's
Okay.
generally half down, from what I understand.
And they see Sonia, right?
Yes, and see Sonia London.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but with this being said, she's only one person. Sometimes 3 and 4 people will be in the waiting room, but if there's someone there, we have ramped up customer service, so people there should be able to accommodate anyone who comes in. And Sonia is there. Also, Janice helps. When it's an overflow, I'm always here to assist.
Right, but who does the payment arrangements? Is it one particular person or all the
Sonia
ladies over there
authorizes
do
the
it?
payment arrangements.
So it's just her?
Yes, to make sure it's uniform.
All right, thanks.
Okay. Any additional questions, comments, citizens address? Going once, twice? Motion that we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, and we're going to call the roll. Trustee Steve?
Aye.
Trustee Brown?
Aye.
Trustee House? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 6:07.